Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Karen, please call the roll.
Director Dixon?
Here.
Director Mishler?
Here.
Director Magner? Here. Director Kelly? Here. Chairman Malloy?
Here. All present. Item 4, amendments to the agenda.
The only thing, we need to pull Friends of Camarillo Dog Park. They weren't able to make it tonight.
Okay, so that's 5C is out.
I'll
Other
make-
changes? Go ahead, Lane.
I was going to say, I'll make a motion to accept the amended agenda.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Kelly? Aye. Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We'll move on to item 5, presentations, district highlights. And as usual, the pace of technology is not quite what we expect it to be. So, there we go. The bulb warm up.
It says it's in focus.
Just killing our TV ratings, all this dead air. We're just losing tens of thousands of viewers by the minute.
That was good, Bob.
As the show doesn't go on. Denise can sing. Denise can sing?
Do I need to talk about the geology of Canal Mountain or something?
Please, PowerPoint, please. Spare us.
You want to, can't you maybe start with and then catch up with the slides? Or you want to wait?
Well, good evening, Chairman Malloy and members of the board. I'm Denise Cleric. I am the program specialist for the Senior Center. And as soon as we have video, I will present district highlights.
Oh, your mics are not working? Okay. Okay.
Oh! Got to push the right button.
There we go. Worth waiting for, I'm sure.
We're going to start with the Aquatic Center. So on December 12th through the 13th, there will be a water safety instruction course. This will be from 4 to 8 p.m. If you have any questions about this, please call the Aquatic Center. We do have a few closures coming up this month. We will be closed December 24th through the 26th for Christmas, and then January through February for pool resurfacing and slide maintenance. In classes and camps, we are always looking for contract instructors, so do you have a special skill? If so, we are looking to expand our class offerings to the public, so please contact PVRPD for more information. In our outdoor education, we are currently working hard to rebuild Camarillo Grove Park. To do this, we will continue classes in the new year with such as nature journaling and watch how the park regrows. And with our charter schools, we are now partnering with Golden Valley, Inspire, Sage Oak, and Compass Charter Schools. So please sign up today for your classes. At the Senior Center on November 8th, we had a group of about 54 attendees go to Pachanga Casino that day. Everybody had a great time and made it back safe that evening. On November 21st, we had our annual Thanksgiving bingo potluck, where everyone brought in their special dishes and shared and ate until they were stuffed. And that was a great way to start the Thanksgiving weekend. On December 27th, we will be having our Senior Tech Fair. This is where seniors can partner up with high school and college students to learn how to use their cell phones, iPads, laptops, etc. So if you are interested in learning or available to volunteer, please give us a call. On December 30th, we will have our end-of-year bingo bash. This will be on a Sunday. Doors will open at 11 o'clock. The games start at 1 p.m., and this is for all adults 18 and older. And starting in January, we will be starting our free tax assessment signups. These will be held every Monday starting in February, and they are conducted by our AARP volunteers, which are the retired tax professionals. So please give us a call starting January for that. And our first excursion will be January 28th. This is in the new year. It's going to Pismo Beach to the Monarch Butterfly Grove. Bus transportation and lunch at Cool Hand Luke's will be included. December is full of special events, and we started with last Saturday, December 1st, with our Breakfast with Santa. This was held at the Community Center Auditorium. We had 2 seatings at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. with 152 people registered, where they were able to visit with Santa Claus, have a pancake breakfast, watch movies, and have musical entertainment. We would also like to give a special thanks to our partners, the Moose Lodge 2047, Oriental Trading Company, Boy Scout Troop 808, the Greenway Irish Dancers, and Born to Perform Studio. Thank you to everyone. Our next special event is going to be tomorrow night, December 7th. It was going to be at the Community Center Park, and it has now been moved to the auditorium. The movie that is showing will be Elf, and that starts at 5:30 in the evening. Please bring a warm blanket, and don't forget your spaghetti and syrup. Of course, our biggest special event is the Christmas Parade and Santa's Village, and this year we have added our Ugly Sweater 5K and Donut Dash. This will all be on Saturday, December 8th. Our road closures will start as early as 6 a.m. that morning. The Donut Dash starts at 8:30 on Burnley Street. Santa's Village opens at 9 o'clock at the Community Center. The parade will start at 10 o'clock at the intersection of Temple and Las Posas. And this year we are anticipating 8,000 to 10,000 people watching the parade and coming to the village. In our sports department, the CYBA have started their practices. They did this in November, and they've been at our local gyms. Their season starts on January 5th. Also coming up will be the adult softball and kickball managers meetings. These will be held on Tuesday, January 8th at 6 and 7 p.m. respectively. We are encouraging all managers to attend for new rules and to get their questions answered. And the newest edition of the activity guide will be is set for delivery next week. We are having all kinds of new staff taught classes in this edition. These include inner tube water polo, art classes, contemporary jazz, and Let PVRPD Rock Your Body Fitness program. So please register early as these classes do fill up.
Thank you, Denise. Very nice. I'd like to add that the inclusion of the Irish dance group and the Born to Perform group to Breakfast with Santa was fantastic. Those kids were really terrific and really added a lot to the event. So, as usual, you guys just keep making it better every year. Thanks for doing that. Okay, next is.
We're going to do the spotlight.
Oh, we're still.
Yep.
Okay.
So, no worries. So so to do the district spotlight this time, we thought we'd kind of give everybody an update on the Hill fire. It seems like that was a long time ago, and it was literally only about 3 weeks ago. So if you haven't heard, the district played a key role in this fire, and from anywhere from we had parks that were just one park that was devastated to actually being a command center as well as being an evacuation site. So we'll kind of go through a little bit of information. So this photo here actually shows you the before and after picture. So as you can see, these were taken from the same vantage point at about, this one was last spring, and you can see what that hillside looks like now. The good news is you can see right where the trail is at. So Camarillo Grove Park, the Hill fire started on Thursday, November 8th. And it burned about 4,500 acres. The cause is still under investigation, but the fire swept through Cam Grove. You can see this is the overflow lot right here. And so when this photo was taken at about 3:30, we thought we'd end up losing the entire park. So the fact that we didn't lose any buildings, we're very thankful. However, we did lose trails, as you could see. We lost the playground, the dog park, fencing, picnic tables. So what we have done this far is we are actually, first step was to kind of mobilize, and thankfully we had a lot of volunteers that came out. So we put over 4,000 sandbags on the trail to help try and stabilize the trail system so that way the damage wouldn't be worse when we got rain. We haven't checked it as of today, but as the first rain last week, it held fairly well, so we'll do an assessment tomorrow. So we did a call for volunteers, and we thank all the volunteers that came out because we had volunteers Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They bagged over 4,000 sandbags, put them up on the trail. They cleaned out debris, which were 3 40-yard bends of debris and trees and leaves, and worked really hard to do that. We also had Megan work with some of the restaurants around here, and so Pizza Man Dan's, Double Play Pizza, Snapper Jack's, Boulevard Burger, and Jersey Mike's all stepped up, and we thank them because they stepped up and provided lunch for the volunteers that came out. So thank you all for coming out to assist with that. So kind of the next step is that the district board then had a meeting, and we had to hold an emergency meeting, and that meeting was in accordance with government code. So we passed a motion declaring it a local emergency. And what that actually does is helps us, because for the state emergency and stuff, it actually, we're able to access funding, work with the insurance companies, and actually start this process a lot sooner of cleaning stuff up throughout the park. So you're going to be able to see some of the damage right here. So we've done some initial assessment of the damage and the projects that need to be done. So we will have removals and replacement of burnt trees. So we worked with WCA. They've already gone out there to look at the trees. We should have a report back fairly shortly on what that damage looks like, how many trees that we're going to have to remove, how many we're going to have to prune. So we'll have an idea what that looks like. We'll remove and replace the fencing. So there was a lot of fencing damage, removal and replacement of the playground equipment and those amenities, replace the dog park turf, and then rebuilding of the trails and recovery of just the native plants. So the estimated partial reopening, the hope would be is February, March, and part of that will be how quickly we can get some of this stuff cleaned up and then put back. Along with saying that, to this point, we've met with our insurance agents, which is Capri, and so anything that they don't cover, our excess carrier will be covering. And then the other part of that is we'll also be in touch with FEMA, because there's certain things that each one of them cover and doesn't cover. So we'll be in touch with them as we continue to do this process. So as that was going on, the community center was used. Red Cross, we got a call from both Red Cross as well as the CAL FIRE. So Red Cross typically has used our Freedom Center. However, when we got the call from CAL FIRE that they needed the entire Freedom area, Red Cross then used the community center. So we designated that as a Red Cross center for evacuees. So not only did they use just the community center, they used all the classrooms as well as the senior center. At the height, we had probably about 135 or so people in here on Thursday night and Friday, and then slowly started clearing out. But we had people in the facility all the way through Monday. So once again, what ended up happening is we had staff that were on call. We coordinated donations, worked as the information system. So a lot of people were calling. So what we ended up doing is we had one phone, the phone line coming in. Typically we have messages. What we did is it was a live phone and manned that phone 24 hours to make sure if people had questions. We started getting phone calls. We received probably 300 to 400 phone calls just asking if we were a vac site, if we took pets, and some of those things. Then the other thing that we help with is on Saturday we opened the aquatic center so people could shower. So we actually opened that so people could shower on Saturday. So while that was going on, then the other end we had Freedom Park. So we have a use agreement with CAL FIRE. And so what CAL FIRE did is they were out there using this emergency as their incident base camp. So they do reimburse, so we will be reimbursed $1,600 per 24 hours that they're out there. So as you can see from these photos, they were everywhere, and I mean throughout the entire airport, not just our facility. There were probably over 1,500 firefighters out there, over 300 plus trucks, and literally coming and going and manning the center out there. So this is the field, the West End field that they're using here on this side. You can't see it from this photo, but on the other side, they had massive tents set up. These are all the individual tents when firefighters were coming back. So the bottom, they were everywhere with the exception of the ball fields. So they had anywhere from purchasing on one end to that's where they were giving all the incidents, all the updated information out from this site. So once again, we'd just like to thank all the staff, or thank the staff that came out, thank the donors, the volunteers, everybody that came out to kind of pull together to help us kind of put this at least stabilize some of the stuff that we were doing. So that's kind of the newest update or the most update on the Hill Fire. With that, does anybody have any questions?
Well, I would just comment that the reopening time is really subject to the rain.
Absolutely.
Because the rain can really put us well behind.
Absolutely. That's a best case scenario, and that wouldn't mean the whole park. That could mean partial park. That could mean the lower portion of just the dog park and those kinds of things if we're able to do that. But it will all be subject to rain.
Thank you, Mary. We're done? Okay. On to full-time employee recognition. Good. Okay. Who's got that one? Brandon. Okay.
Good evening, Chairman Malloy, members of the board. I'm Brandon Lopez, a Parks Lead at the Community Center. I'm here to present the Outstanding Employee of the Year Award. Dusty Faber, why don't you come up? Dusty came to us in the Parks Department about 3.5 years ago. He started part-time. He did part-time for about a year. He's been full-time for about 2.5 years. When he first came to us, he was shy, nervous, pretty green. I think oftentimes afraid of his own shadow. Nice thing about Dusty, you never had to worry about where he was, because you just follow the trail of tools around, you'd be able to. After a while, we did kick that habit, and now he puts everything back, and he knows exactly where everything is. He's becoming an exemplary employee. He's the first one to work every day. He has a great attitude, and he's ready to work daily. Since day one, he's been very ambitious, eager to learn. He's always asking questions when he doesn't know things. He takes initiative. Oftentimes, you ask him to do things, and he's already taken care of it before you've asked him to do it. He learns very quickly. It's very few and far between. You have to show him things more than once. He's always looking for new methods to make things quicker and very innovative. He's taken it upon himself to attain certifications in our field. He has completed irrigation training. He has his aquatic facility operator certificate. He's gone to several human resource trainings, and he's currently working on his qualified applicator certificate for pesticide. When Dusty's not at work, he's working on his classic cars that he collects, or eating, one of the two. We're not sure if any of the cars run, because we don't see him too often at work. So that one's still up for debate. All joking aside, we rely on Dusty a lot, daily. You can call him any time of the day, and he'll make himself available to be there. He's become a major asset to the district, and he has a bright future with us. And Dusty, I want to say thank you. Appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Picture?
Yeah. It didn't actually happen unless you have a picture of it, so yeah,
Let's go up
we
here.
have to do that. So.
Up here.
Might be on TV, but we have a picture that happened.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you.
I'm going to stand behind you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Every time I see you, Eric.
Good evening, Chairman Malloy, members of the board, general manager, staff, Cameron, and viewers at home. Eric Story, your Recreation Services Manager. Tonight we're going to present a second Employee of the Year nomination, an award. So I need Brandon to come back up here. Brandon is quickly emerging as a dynamic leader who not only takes more responsibilities and tasks within the Parks Department, but also takes time to act as a mentor and teach and guide staff in all departments. On more than a dozen occasions and counting, Brandon has asked what he can do to better support district programming and special events, resulting in increased morale and cooperation between departments and increased work efficiencies for everyone involved. He's basically an all-around good guy. Having responsibility for the community center and Pleasant Valley Aquatic Center facilities, Brandon manages the day-to-day operational needs and the special event setups for both of those facilities. He currently sits on the SEIU negotiating team while simultaneously supporting district CIP projects to include the redesign and rebuild of the auditorium patio, restrooms and outside restrooms, and the Nancy Bush project that he presented to you all 2 months ago, maybe. As a crew lead, he has set the example for his staff and taken an active role in his own professional development. He has earned his certified playground inspector, aquatics facility operator, and is currently completing his bachelor degree in business from Azusa Pacific University. He seeks continual feedback on his performance. He seeks increased challenges to include presenting projects to the board of directors. His positive can-do attitude is an asset to the district, and he is always looking to lend a hand or to see how fellow colleagues and coworkers are doing to make their day easier and their job easier. So Brandon, we appreciate everything you do.
I could stand next to Brandon. He doesn't know what I was saying about him.
3, 2, 1, and we'll do a couple more here. Okay. Thank you.
So they were forged my signature.
Oops.
Okay. Next is a volunteer recognition.
Good evening, Chairman Malloy and members of the board and everybody else. So I get the privilege of presenting the Volunteers of the Year. So this year we have the Foundation Board. So we have a handful of people tonight that we're going to honor. The Foundation Board members, these are a special group of people, a special group to me. I get to work with them often. They're people who are dedicated, compassionate, hardworking. They're not paid to do what they do. They come in because they want to, and they have a desire to help with the mission of what they're doing. And this board is a collection of people who all have a skill set that's different. But when you put them together, they create magic, because the events and the activities that they do come back to benefit the Parks District, because the Pride event or place that they're raising money for, the Camarillo Grove Park, is definitely going to be beautiful when all of the money is raised by this group of people. And watching them work over the last 2 years that I've worked with them has been a joy. And so I'm excited to introduce, we're missing one tonight, unfortunately. She's at another fundraising event, but we have the rest of them here tonight. So as I call your name, y'all get to come up. So we have Rod Brown, we have Linda Lamb, Julie Navarro, Elaine Magner, Janet Dixon, and Mary Otten. So they're all going to come up. Janet, that one's yours. Linda, that one's yours.
Sure.
Rod, that one's yours. Julie. I think. I might have given somebody the wrong one. Oh, Janet, I gave you the wrong one. I gave you Mary's.
They're both blondes.
So y'all need to go over there for a picture. No, I'm not on the board. So thank you guys for everything you do. We're going to make y'all fit.
I'll stand next to Mark.
I got some. We're good. Thank you, guys.
Well, that was fun. Chance to say thank you to the people that make this place work. Very cool. Okay, on to item 6, swearing in of elected directors. I believe that's Anthony Miller's duty. Elaine, Bob?
Well, congratulations, Robert and Elaine, for your re-election. Now we get to do the official part. Okay. Everyone looking? Okay, good. All right, I will read the section here at the top and then just follow the instructions. Per California Government Code Section 1360, and as Deputy County Clerk for the County of Ventura in the state of California, it is my duty to administer the oath of office. Please repeat after me, please repeat after me together as a group, stating your full name where noted. As a director for the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District, here, I'll hand this to you so you can speak into the mic.
Oh. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
As the director of the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District, I, Elaine Louise Magner,
Robert Kelly, Buddy Kelly, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Okay. Congratulations. You may return to your seat.
Yes. While they're taking the picture, I would like to congratulate Director Magner for breaking the record for the most votes for a park director with 15,397.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Elaine. Okay, item 7, public comment. I have no open session public comment speaker cards, and seeing no one come forward, I think we'll move on to item 8, the consent agenda. Anybody want to pull anything off consent agenda? No. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept or approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Director Mishler,
Aye.
Director Dixon,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. That moves us up to 9A. Consideration of proposed new park site at Rancho Springville Development. That's Mary.
All right. So the requested board action tonight, it's recommended the board discuss the merits of the new park location at Rancho. It's within the Springville development. So the two options are approve the developer's proposed location of the new park site or reject the proposed park site new location and remain with the committed initial planned park site So just a little bit of background. So the municipal code, Title 18, subsection 18.30, is in relationship to the parkland dedication, so which includes conditions for any subdivider. And the conditions for those would be they can dedicate land, pay in lieu fee, or a combination of both. So in that particular, as a little bit of background, in that particular out at Springville, there's been 2 parks that have been dedicated. One is already built, which is now the new Mel Vincent Park. This would be the second one, and there were in lieu fees that were also paid in the accordance of about $464,000 thereabouts from KB Homes. So this ordinance states, as part of this, the amount of land to be dedicated, and that is 217.8 square feet per person living within the development. That's how they figure out how much parkland. So in January of 2008, the City of Camarillo approved the Springville specific plan, and the plan included over 1,000 housing units, commercial spaces, and then, as I just said, 2 park sites. The original park sites are the Mel Vincent, and the second one is on the westernmost edge, kind of along what we would call a windrow, or where the eucalyptus trees are located. During the November 2018 City Council meeting, the developer applied for a change to the Springville specific plan. And so for the developer to even look at a relocation, he first had to go to the City Council to say, hey, look, we would like to look at this location. So the relocation, as part of this specific plan, they looked at the relocation of the 5-acre park, as well as a reduction in the overall residential density. So those are the 2 things that they're asking the city to approve, or at least look at. So this map is the entire Springville development. So what you see here is, this is the location of the current, the original park site, which is right here. This is the Springville park site right there. And all this other green is considered just open space along that area right there. Okay. The updated plan, or what they would like to do, is once again the entire Springville area, and where the arrow is at, is you will notice, is where the park is now located, which is on the eastern edge of the undeveloped area, which is right off of Springville Road right here. Okay. So they're moving it from here to this side over here. So due to the change in park location, the developer will need approval of the district board. The board took such action item back in October. If you remember, the board, we came before the board in 2017 regarding the proposed seminary, when we had talked about in lieu fees, as well as the city or the developer wanted us to the district to take on a trailhead. At that point in time, the board said they just wanted in lieu fees, and they declined the trailhead. So this would be the second time coming before the board, different action item. So the benefits of the proposed site plan modifications provides a strong visual gateway to the planned community that's on that side. The park will be largely accessible by foot, bicycle to Springville residents. The site is more level. If you look along the freeway, you will notice, and being that we've been out there before, the old park site was thin, narrow, and it was on a grade. The current one, or the new one, I shouldn't say the current, the one that they're proposing is much flatter. So as you can see, with a level site, it offers opportunities that can include field space, and I just put this as options. So options could be pickleball, could be an off-leash park, could be playground, but it just offers more opportunities for amenities. Additionally, there'll be a bike path. So if I go back here, you'll notice this blue here is a bike path, which was not part of the original plan, but you'll notice that one of the additions would be a bike path that would be able to go through here. So there's no fiscal impact for this action. So it is recommended that the board discuss the merits of the new park location at Rancho Springville Development and make a motion to approve the developer's proposed location, or to reject that and continue with the current initial planned park site. I do have Dennis Hargraves, who represents the developer here, if you have specific questions for Dennis at this time.
Is Dennis going to make a
Yeah,
presentation?
Dennis, why don't you come on up and kind of fill in the blanks where appropriate.
Thanks, Chairman Malloy and members of the board. Dennis Hardgrave, 211 Village Commons in Camarillo, here tonight representing Rancho, the property owners. Maybe I can just give a brief entry summation and then we can kind of free range however you like. I'm not used to this formal setting for you. I go back to the days of us being in the Burnley in the senior room and walking through things. But first of all, to be completely clear and formal about this, I would like to apologize for any confusion that may have been caused by us appearing before the City Council and you not having us appeared before you first. As General Manager Otten has stated, it's an odd procedure the City of Camarillo has in that we have a general plan amendment referral, which is an active item that's been underway for over 3 years, and by the time all the pieces get moving on these, the city doesn't have a specific process by which I can raise my hand and go, hey, why don't we talk about alternatives within this general plan amendment, but rather you have to kind of do a linear process. And so you're another step in a linear process that we have here tonight. So I apologize for any seeming lack of concern for your particular position in it, but step one was our November meeting in front of the City Council, which we did. We will go back to them again. We'll be on next week's agenda for a second step where the staff will present another staff report. Last time they didn't actually do a report. They'll do a report and they will also relay whatever you say tonight to the City Council. So as just yet another step in many that would come over the next 6 months on this process. So having said that, we've worked with your staff and with this board and previous boards for a number of years, and we always attempt to look out for what we think are the best common sense solutions for our community. And we did not plan the Springville specific plan. I'll use that as a disclaimer. It would not have laid out quite that way had we done it, but it was something that was done while we were all still busy trying to figure out how to get Village at the Park built, and then we got involved with it shortly after that. So we represent the property owner who owned the Ran and Rancho Associates properties, which own everything westerly of Earl Joseph Drive. So we've managed the development of everything that you see that's going up to that point. They also dedicated land for the interchange and a number of other things, so it's a involved, complicated process they've been in. As we've been working through this site over time, two things became evident to us as planners, and then as we worked with city staff and also with your general manager, was that the location of the park, as we go back to it, was not in the most practical location given the realities of what we have now. There may have been some rationale at the time this was originally designed. If you think of this plan, it may have been approved in early 2008, but it was pencil on paper as early as 2000. The city was working with this plan for a number of years. And there would have been thought in the political environment of the time that Ponderosa would extend further west and somebody would build houses all the way to Central along the freeway frontage. That's not very likely, I would say, based on where we are today in both the politics of the community and the reality of what we face. So that 5-acre park may have at one time been a logical, gee, someday it'll be more development, we can get a bigger park adjacent to it. We honestly do not see that happening in my, if not career, probably not my lifetime either. I would think that there'd be development going further west. As a result, in fact, LAFCO told the city at one point, if you're not going to develop any more than this in 5 years, don't annex any more of this. So no more was allowed by LAFCO to be even considered for development when it went last time. So as we've looked at it, there are two things obvious to us, that with the demise of commercial development and the restrictions of what can be built in an airport flight pattern, what used to be a highly valuable interchange location is not something that you say, great, let's go build a shopping center on top of this. We, in fact, think probably, if you look at it location-wise, it makes the most sense to have the park on the east end. If you go to the next slide, where we're now proposing it to be located, and that location would be on the east end in a rectangular mode, as your general manager has stated. And we would have an agricultural buffer on the west edge, meeting the Ag Commissioner standards for a double windrow and 150 feet. It would be difficult for us to have taken those eucalyptus trees out if that's where the park is, because they're part of a windrow ag buffer, and they're also highly incompatible with most of your park uses. I'm familiar with the trail we did at Sterling Hills, if you remember the equestrian trail that runs along there, and weeds don't grow very well, nor does anything else under the drip line of those eucalyptus trees. So that was another part of the rationale for thinking we would move it to the other side. Further, we've reduced the density because we feel as planners, and also from the economic point of view, that the rationale for having higher density 3-story townhomes on this site is not in the best market demand or in the best feasibility for need within the community. There's plenty of townhomes now approved in the city. Most of them are 3-story townhomes. This would be an extension of 2-story, small lot, single-family detached homes would be all yellow. So the density would be going down slightly, and the park would be located at this location. Finally, other component of this that's new is the blue bike path. The city has, I don't want to speak for them, but my understanding is they're in the process of grant applications to do a Class 1 bike path all the way from Central along what would be actually called the Daily Drive frontage. I mean, that's what that street's called as it runs along there, and it's really just a skinny half-paved road that accesses those farms to the west of our site. But as they work on that idea, then it would be able to cross over the Central Bridge and then pick up the one on the Ventura Boulevard side and cross that bridge that crosses the Beardsley Wash and then continues on into Oxnard. So that's the theory, is that there become a Class 1 bike linkage from the Springville interchange over and across Central Bridge and then further to the west into Oxnard. So that's where that idea came in. The city approached us with that, and it would be between the berm and the freeway. So if you think of even easterly, all along, if you've noticed at Springville, between the freeway fence and the toe of the berm, there's a paved road. That is not a bike road. That is strictly an access road for CamSan and Camarillo Water, because they have their backbone utilities running along there, and Southern California Gas has a line in there as well. So all that is background of why we think put together this looks like a good plan and a better plan that would serve not only that existing community but also the residents within the area and provide a better gateway to the site. So a little long-winded, but I hope that filled in some of the blanks, and I'm here to answer whatever questions you may have.
Thank you, Dennis. Mike, you want to start?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And thank you, Dennis, for being here. I've worked with you before in various projects, even before I was on the board here, and you're always a good person to work with. You understand the issues about the community and stuff. I want to praise you for all that. Thank you. And I also wanted to also mention at your city council meeting last week, you also mentioned, which we would know up here, is that if we had to do this over again, instead of 2 5-acre parcels, it would have been much more logical to have one 10-acre parcel equivalent to like a Pitts Ranch Park, where we can serve a lot more functionality for the whole community. They would still have their local park, but also the whole community would have greater benefit out of it. But we're past that point, but I understand that. And I also want to say, I believe this is also, a better idea, proposal. You can almost close your eyes and pick any place, and it'd be better than what the city had originally out there. The first item I want to bring up, or an issue, and it's not only for the developer and the city and our staff to follow up on, is wherever the park is, and this site I think is a good site, but I want to make sure that we don't fall into the same problems we had at Village at the Park, where all the good topsoil was stripped off, used somewhere else, And then basically, for people who don't know, at Pleasant Valley Fields, basically there was a large hole in the ground, and when they needed the backfill it, people at the time basically brought rock down from Thousand Oaks and just dumped it in there with cars and everything else. But I've heard rumors there are cars buried there. But anyway, under all that rock. But it was just a big, okay, so one of the problems we have at Pleasant Valley Fields is it's hard to grow grass on rock. So that's obviously an issue. But here we have some prime ag soils I would like to somehow or another see. Obviously not where we're going to have a parking lot or a proposed building or something, but we can keep the present soil. If we do have to move it or grade it, bring it back, and also not to compact the heck out of it to where it turns into cement and we still can't grow anything on it if you compact it too hard. So that's one issue I want to make sure that we follow up with between us and the city. The second issue comes up for a retention basin. At Mel Vincent Park, the southern acre or two is basically a retention basin for part of that neighborhood. And so we have very limited use that we can obviously put into a park when you have a retention basin there. So what I want to do is make sure that we have 5 acres that's actually usable for park facilities and operations and stuff. And if the city does propose to put a retention basin, then we have to, if they're going to put in a 1 acre retention basin, we have to talk about, well, wait a minute, you're taking, it's not really a 5 acre park anymore. We have to somehow compensate or do something on that. And hopefully that won't come up. And you can maybe talk some more about that. But, so that's the second issue I have. You want to talk about it now before I go on? Or?
Actually, if you want me to, Chairman Malloy?
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
Okay.
The first issue about the topsoil, I think it is an issue that we need to be aware of, that and cooperate with the city and make sure it gets discussed as we move forward with planning, is that grading typically has to be compacted to 90%, and that's what makes it, particularly structurally. So we would have to have some agreement that in turf areas or in non-structural areas, we were going to get an agreement with the city on how to do lesser compaction, because you're absolutely right. I have some farm soil in my yard, and I live in Village at the Park, and I still have to use a pickaxe to plant a bush. I mean, it's all a factor of the compaction and the fact that it doesn't get continually fluffed. So that part we'll be glad to work with on that. And we've got the soil there. There will be import brought to the site, I'm sure of that, but we will make sure that there's a harvesting or a stockpiling of dirt. At least let's get it conditioned in case I'm not around, you're not around, or somebody else. Let's make sure that's in the record with the city as well. So as far as that one goes, the retention basin on this, you can't see it in this level of detail, but along the sound berm where you see green, there's some light green along there is representative of there are detention basins planned to pick up water, and there's also a hillside one up about where the 13.14 acres is listed up on the top, up above there. There's also another basin up high. So yeah, right in that area. There's a small basin that exists there that will be cleaned out. The drainage area for this is much smaller. If you think about it, it doesn't drain any of Viña del Mar, and only that open hill of Spanish Hills is that green 13 acres, whereas what you're getting, I believe, at Mel Vincent is Ponderosa Drive and a bunch of other things all draining into there. We have a 1 acre basin, actually a 2 acre basin west of Earl Joseph. It's called a 100-foot landscape buffer area on that exhibit, but that's the basin that's probably the equivalent of what you have on your side, and we pick up a bunch of water off of Earl Joseph Drive and Camino Tierra Santa. So I haven't seen the hydrology that created your hole, but I'm guessing that may be part of what causes the equation, that they're processing water in that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so that'd be one of the issues we need to follow up with as we move forward, of course.
Okay.
The next one is the bike trail, which I'm very excited about. I think it's great to have that Class 1 bike trail, a dedicated bike path, and connect it up. And I think going through the park is a good idea. I mean, obviously, to me, that's a good idea. The only issue I have with a bike trail going through a park site, a potential park site, is that it's using up some of our space. And so one issue back to you, I mean, you don't have to, but one issue I'm thinking about is if that's using a half acre of space, not only the physical the footprint, but also some space around it that's consumed related to the bike path, if somehow we can enlarge or do something to the park to compensate for the loss of parkland for that is another issue to move forward with and think about.
I'll have to, yeah, I can't.
That'd be a follow-up issue if you can look into that. The next issue is parking. And when I look at this, there's obviously not going to be, you got the off-ramp on the south part. There's no public parking down there, obviously. You got a major road going north-south on the east side of the property. There won't be any public parking on that. And then you got Ponderosa going across the north side. And I'm sure that won't have any, typically won't have any public parking available. So the only public parking on the street side would be on that one street coming down on the west side of the proposed park site. And so what I'm concerned about is making sure that we, even though residents will be walking to it, that we still have enough parking, on-site parking, either on the public street and or have some on-site parking. And I guess in some parts of these neighborhoods, there's ways you can not only have parallel parking, but you can have head-in parking on some of these streets. And so that would be an issue that we can maybe follow up with, and that would allow for more parking density to go in there. Because I don't want us to have an activity or event going on there and have overflow into the neighborhoods. I mean, obviously, that's the big concern for everybody. Right. And everybody gets telephone calls, and it's a big hassle. Okay. So we want to look at that. And if we have to, maybe even expand the park a tiny bit to add some more on-site parking if we need to. And then, now we're down to, I guess I call it the old farmhouse. I'm not sure what the technical name is, but I haven't been inside there or anything, but obviously it's an old place, and I'm not saying, to me, the value is I think there's there is probably no net gain benefit to the community for us to have it there. Personally, I don't see, and I kind of feel sorry for you and the developer, because you can probably go out and build a brand new structure that's modern and everything else, probably cheaper than trying to keep that thing up and standing from falling over in the next windstorm, or when the termites get with it or something. In fact, I would bone to bet that the only thing, the lead paint is probably keeping the termites under control to some degree, maybe. So anyway, so I don't see where I would have much need for it, and maybe other board members or staff can tell me if they think there's any real net gain out of it, but I don't see any. If it somehow or another does end up on the park property, then obviously some of the offsets would be the cost to keep that thing from falling over and all the money's involved with that, which would be, I'm sure, be high. But then the other issue would be whatever the footprint and some surrounding land would be. In other words, if the house and wherever it moves to, and some of the footprint and the surrounding stuff is a quarter acre, half acre, I would like to see us be compensated so that we can still have usable space in the park to compensate for the fact that we lost some to the old farmhouse.
Understood.
So that's just a follow-up item. Obviously, you can't address all those issues now, but those are kind of some of the ones on my list to move forward with. And then I'm just going to mention some stuff to the developer and then also to staff. For this site, what I would like to see, we're obviously going to have a playground and your pavilion type stuff. I want to make sure that we have on-site parking of some degree. We have an on-site restroom put in on day one. Pickleball courts, which doesn't occupy much of a footprint, to be great, and especially if we can get lights there, because we're in an area where we could put in some lights and not disturb the neighbors, because you have the open space and the industrial stuff there on the right and the south. So I think we have opportunity to have lights with the pickleball courts there and stuff. I like to see at least a half-acre dog park go in with grass. Maybe a little bit more or something. And for the people listening, why that's important because obviously right up the hill we have another dog park, and people say, well, wait a minute, you just got one a short distance away that also has grass. The issue is we have to do, that grass takes a lot of maintenance for people who may be listening. And periodically, we have to shut down a park to do work on that grass and let it recover and do some work on it. And what we need, it would be nice to have a second little dog park nearby that we can switch back and forth with over time, over the next decades, so that we have a backup site that we can use when we're using one for maintenance, then we have the other one available to use. And then the last thing I want to say is I want to make sure that we get what I would call a 2-acre level playing field there. A full-size soccer field with a little tiny bit of space around it is basically 2 acres. So I want to see a nice 2-acre field. It doesn't have to be for soccer, but I want to have a nice field out there with soil and grass level that we can, football may be using it, lacrosse, field hockey, whatever, practice or something. And, but I want to make sure we get a nice 2-acre field in there available for the community to use. So that's my list. And I hope I cover some of your stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Dr. Dixon.
Yes. Boy, that's quite a wish list. Hard to add to that. But actually, I have some questions about not the park site so much itself, but some of the surrounding areas. What would happen with that windrow of trees? I see it's still marked as a little green strip on the side there.
Yes, the windrow would remain, and we would actually have to add a second row of trees in there to meet the Ag Commissioner standard for vegetative screen. So you have to have 2 of those windrows to have a 150-foot structural setback to the first homes. So that's how that would be. So the eucalyptus would remain, and probably another row of eucalyptus would be added to it.
And would that be city property, or who would own and maintain that?
It's HOA.
HOA.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of whether this with this bike trail, I'm assuming there's a walking trail along with it, and
yeah, I assume. I kind of, again, I have not seen any diagrams for what the city's cross-section would be, but if I were looking at what we did at Village at the Park, which qualifies as a Class 1, I believe they have to be at minimum 10 feet wide, and they can be 12 feet wide. Mm-hmm. And odds are that it'd be, in this section, would probably be asphalt and would be wider than 10 or 12 feet, but Class 1 typically is 10 feet because you have to allow passageway for bikes. Now that would be running easterly, east-westerly if you look at it on the exhibit. And it could, instead of coming around the edge of your park, it could go on the edge of the right-of-way adjacent to that street that goes north-south on the easterly side as well. So it may not encroach at all on your park other than just sitting right on the edge in lieu of a regular sidewalk. Because if you think, I'll give you an example of where it exists. If you think in Westlake Village in front of Pierce Brothers Mortuary as you're going to Costco, that's a Class 1. Some places it meanders, and some places it's adjacent to the curb or behind a 5-foot landscape strip. So those are kind of practical ways we've worked with that one and getting that one plugged into that neighborhood. So. But there probably would also be, we've talked with staff about having either a side, maybe on that westerly edge, not having a sidewalk on that street that's adjacent to the greenbelt, but just having DG, and that's kind of path connection, because there's also a pioneerable, I'm going to make up a word here, pioneerable extension of path. If you see the angle, the red angle that runs up like a 30-degree angle going up at the top, there's a semi-paved road up there that follows the path of Cayugas Water District, City of Oxnard water line, and you could walk from that. You could walk up that hill and almost get out to the other end near the tennis courts. When you walk up there, there's a piece of property that none of us control that sits up there, but we could have a little observation overlook or something like that. So not only would we have the active park, but the potential for some passive walking area, in that open space. Oh. So anyway, that's just, kind of brainstorming things that are practical and people like to use.
Right. Well, that's actually what I was thinking with that windrow area. If a DG trail would be perfect. Right. If that could be continued from the park, if you could use that as a walking trail along the bike trail, and then up that windrow, And that was my next question, is what is the configuration of that property that's designated as open space up there? Is that hillside, or is there some of the...
It's pretty steep, and it's kind of rivulated. If you look at it, there's been a lot of, runoff through it. It's stabilized fill, but it's got, it's not usable open space in terms of that you couldn't put a structure on it for certain. And maybe you could put a couple of little seating pads or something like that. We did that in Moore Park in a couple of neighborhoods where the trails went, and there were just, a 60 square foot pad or 80 square foot pad, and maybe a bench or something, or a table, sometimes a concrete bench, and just a little overlook up there. It's a pretty cool view from up at the top of that.
So that is it so steep that putting trails into that would be impractical, or would it be?
It's more than anything. My just first glance is it's the stabilizing that. Anytime you put any kind of cut you put into it, then you've got the issue you've got now out at Camarillo Springs, right, where you've got to stabilize the runoff and the erosion of a cut. So it might be able to. I don't know that you could ever make an ADA compliant trail get through that triangle. I think it's a little steep for that. The road is, I believe, too.
Will that also be HOA land, or will that be city, or?
I think it's HOA, as far as I know. The first parcel, what I call the orange slice piece, where it's the orange slice piece that's to the right of it, already is HOA property. So I think the other one will be as well. If we were in Thousand Oaks, we'd have Costco take it or something like that. That would be the normal process we'd use. We'd have an open space agency that wanted it. I'm certain I could compel the property owners to give it to the district if the district wanted it.
Well,
imagine
only if they'll keep the water bill.
There's no irrigation on it. That's the good news.
Well, and I see, if we have a bike trail here, especially if the bike trail is ultimately continued on into Oxnard, and if there's hiking trail, walking trails and things attached to this, I can see this being a very popular park, which again, I'd agree with Director Mishler that parking may become an issue. This may be could become, even though it's only 5 acres, could become a destination park for bikers and walking, people who like to walk for exercise and that sort of thing. So I think that would be a really important issue, is to make sure we have adequate parking there. Okay, well, thank you very much. Yeah. It's very interesting.
I would say, just an interjection on this, just so you know, if you're not out there at the odd hours that I'm out there at between the Cayugas Creek bike path, the bike path that's in the sports park, and the connection we added just recently opened between the hotel and and your property, and the green belt that runs along inside Village at the park by Lamplighter. There are a ton of people who use that thing.
I use that park regularly. It's very popular. Yeah.
It's one of the things I'm actually most pleased about, how it's worked out. It actually kind of organically found its way, and the first week we had that little cross connect open, people started jumping on it right away, which is cool. And actually will help during soccer tournaments, I think, that people won't have to maybe get in their cars. They can actually go from the hotel over to there and walk across for the day. Before we fenced it, people used to do that all the time. Buddy remembers they would pioneer a path across that, and then the city made us fence it for security and safety purposes. But now it's open again. So I love getting all these, anywhere we can get connectivity, and the planning department does too.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Neil. Bob?
Nice to see you again, Dennis.
Thanks.
I thought Director Mishler laid out a lot of good points, and I just want to comment on maybe one, maybe two. But I remember this project. I was on the board when this all got done. Unfortunately, as I recall, and Director Magner or Director Malloy can correct me if I have remembered it incorrectly, but as I recall, and as Director Mishler stated, was that we wanted a 10-acre park. Okay. And at that time, I think what the situation was that the city did not include us in any of the decision-making. And so what happened, we found out what the decision was, and we had to live with it. That's what I recall. And so I believe, and Mary can correct me if I'm wrong, that having to take care of these two little postage stamp sized parks is going to be way more expensive for the district than it would have been to take care of the 10-acre, and also the amount of usage and the type of usage that we could generate is going to be lessened because of that. But my initial question is, how did it come to pass that this particular issue came up? I mean, were you guys sitting around the office one day and said, hey, you know what, we probably should move that park? Or I mean, how did this come up? I always think that with big money at stake, there's always an economical reason why something like this might change like this. What is the real reason?
I'm going to give you the reason that it popped into our mind was I walked out with your general manager and at least one other staff member, I think Bob, and I'm not sure who all was there, but we went out there and said, here's your park site. And they looked at the eucalyptus trees, and the first comment was, those have got to go. I'm pretty sure. If not the first, it was one of the first. And we looked at it from that point of view and said it makes sense. Quite honestly, I'm from a property owner's point of view, it doesn't make any difference. Because the property owner just wants all the remaining land to be yellow. And to be quite honest, the future neighbors would probably like it better if it was a little skinny greenbelt park sitting on the end. It might even be better from an economic point of view. I sat down with Joe Vaca after I talked with Mary, and I took it back to my client. My client is not a developer. My client's a landowner. They defer to us on these types of decisions completely. They've deferred to us when it came to making what many people thought was a sucker deal for how little they got for the land under the Springville interchange, but they deferred to us because we'd had a track record in this city and in this county, and they said, look, we're not going to get a project approved probably otherwise. So all that to say, there's nothing came to me from a developer or from a potential buyer or from anyone else. It was just something that we started with ourselves. You know, and I have to say, to be quite honest, the sports park came from exactly what you're saying, was sitting around with, I'll go way, way back to Chuck Spence and Del Bruner and my business partner Gordon Genowine and I saying, if we can't put soccer fields where the fire department now has their training facilities, where could we put them? And it really was. There was no developer. There was not a Heege family or anybody else in the picture. I just went back to my clients and said, I think we have an idea that'll help you get a project approved. Practical, pragmatist, you know, trying to do what we think's best and, you know, and do business in the community. So I'm not trying to be flippant with all this.
We all knew how that occurred. Yeah. We were all there.
Yeah. So. And from then on, we all circled the wagons and got it done. And for this, it was nothing any more dramatic than that. It was just not a great plan. You know, I can make a lot of comments about the Springfield plan, but I'll limit it to that.
I just wanted to ask for the record. I just wanted to ask. Okay. Director Mishler brought up the dirt, and I'm not sure I got the kind of answer that I want to get. Okay. I remember when we did the Pleasant Valley Fields or the sports park. And I don't think I was on the board at the time. And I asked a lot of questions. I brought in some pictures and so forth. And I was not real happy what I saw going on out there. I saw these giant trucks just coming in and taking dirt and moving it over for the pads for those houses over there. And I remember, and I think you remember, you were probably there because you were at almost every one of those meetings during that time, when I asked about the fill that they were going to put back in there, and I was told that, oh, we're going to have grade checkers and people checking the trucks and all of that stuff. And so I said, oh, okay, that sounds okay. And then I went out there. And what do I see? Big trucks dumping rocks and sticks and trees and all kinds of stuff. The amount of rocks that come up from that place, over there where we have the goals, just moving the goals brings up hundreds of rocks every week. I fill the back of carts with rocks. I don't know where they come from, but they must be down in the 5, 6, 7, 8 feet deep down there. I don't know. So I just want to make sure that any park that we build where there's this type of business arrangement going on, that nobody takes the dirt off of the parkland.
And I think the best way to secure that is to make sure that you get that in your record with the park, with the city as well, in your letters as the project runs through its EIR. There is a supplemental EIR being done for the project, I think it's a supplement is the technical term. And so as they do that, there'll be a public comment period to it. So I would suggest strongly that you comment to it at that level and enter it in the record on the project as well. And it could be added as an engineering condition, I'm certain. That's the best way to secure it, that the topsoil, you know, define something. Typically, it's the top 3 feet generally is the best soil. I mean, you know, that's without, you know, that's generally, if you'd say save and, you know, reprocess the top 3 feet of soil for it, would be a common sense thing to request the city to add as a condition, and I can't imagine that they wouldn't do that. And that's the best way to secure that it happens, rather than have to say, is Dennis going to be around in 5 years when that happens or what?
I think you will be, but I don't want to install pumps to water the place out there. And all right, the playing area out there, Mike or Director Mishler mentioned the playing area. I think that if that's what, if that can happen, that it needs to be flat and it needs to be something that the people in that area, because due to just a number of the conditions we've discussed tonight, our other facilities are used fairly heavily, and with the inability to grow grass easily, it makes it doubly worse. So I think that there's a lot of high density here, or medium density, or both, and I think it'll be heavily used. So I think that that's something that needs to happen, and I agree with them. The maintenance on it, I think, is going to be tremendous. So that's one of the reasons why we need that good topsoil. And that's all I have. And thanks, Dennis.
Great. Mrs. Magner.
Dennis, haven't seen you in a long time. Talk to me about the house. I'm concerned. I'm dealing with Cam Grove House right now, so I'm right on top of houses that are in bad conditions. So
I'll be candid about the house. The house, to me, is not a significant structure. We won't know until the CEQA supplement gets published whether it's significant enough that it has to be preserved in some way, shape, or form. What's typical, and I'm not speaking for an unpublished document that I haven't seen, is that the range would be, as it was at the Pettit House, if you remember, was photograph and create a documentation book on it and give it to the Ventura County Museum and the Historical Society. Document the house, ask people to recycle whatever artifacts or whatever they want to. That's like the minimum thing that happens. The maximum thing is restore in place, including every drawer and everything inside the house, and make it a house. That extreme, I don't think either extreme's likely to happen based on the way the world is now. You know, there are people who step up and say, we think this should be preserved because it's a remnant of Springville, the old community. So it may wind up having to stay. Stay means the shell has to look like the shell does, only restored. The interior can be completely repurposed for some other reason. In other words, you know, you might just have the shell, and Mr. Mishler was right, you could build a new one a lot cheaper than you could clean up the old one and jack it up and, stabilize it. So the range of options are leave it where it is in the park. It's not in a good location for a park. It's in a corner where no one can get to it. You know, you'd want a parking space next to it, probably. Move it elsewhere in the park, which isn't something that I've heard any support for so far. and repurpose it as a meeting room. In other words, gut it, brace it, make a meeting room, maybe put a bathroom in it probably, and maybe if that served the purpose of the interior and exterior bathrooms, it'd have some purpose. Now, that's one extreme, having it repurposed and handed to you that way. The other is put it in the HOA common area and have it be their community room, because it's not very big. So overall, I think it's about 1,700 square feet.
That's what I was
total,
going to ask you.
something like that. It's one story. Okay. Absent that, the options are move it elsewhere within the project. You could put it on the commercial side across, you know, on the, where it says mixed use. You could put it on that side, and maybe somebody could make a go of it as an antique store or a restaurant, or you could put it on a lot within the yellow planning area and give it to somebody and say, have at it, restore this house. I mean, there's a whole range of options, but it doesn't, we don't know what those options are. I can't speak to it, because you just have to tell us you don't want it, and that takes that off the table. You know, I mean, I'm just being candid about it.
Yeah,
you know,
I understand.
Same as I'd be otherwise. So,
Right.
so that's where we stand. I don't see it being restored. It wasn't really a great house on the inside now, and there is absolutely nothing left inside of it of any value. It has been shredded by people living in it for years, both as the farm workers who lived in it for a number of years, and then beyond that, there were squatters in it from time to time, and we try to keep it boarded up. So does that help?
Yeah, it does. It does. I appreciate that, Dennis. So the decision we make tonight, we don't have to decide on the house until the CEQA report comes in. Am I correct?
That's my understanding completely.
both-
I wouldn't bind anybody for anything with that house until the last possible time we have to. But I would commit to keep a dialogue open with you. I can commit to that. I don't know what's going to happen, whether I'll be here for grading, but I can commit to you that I'll be here through the entitlement process, and we will determine the outcome of that house cooperatively with you and the city and the property owner.
Okay. You have that, Karen?
Yes, you can write that down.
No,
You can tell the city that I said that as well. That's probably even more important, right?
I was going to say that, yeah. So, no, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, when Dennis talked to the city, to his credit, he made it very clear that we had no interest in the home, and that there wasn't anything with any recreational value to us, and that he understood that going in, and he made that clear to the council. So
unless we can play pickleball inside it, you know, then we can have the lights.
I mean, the eave of the roof is sagging. I mean, it's really, I just can't imagine
I've seen it.
anybody would think it makes sense to retain.
And there may be someone watching tonight that says, that is the house of my dreams. And they can call me tomorrow. Or call you, and we'll get them connected.
Well, when they become president of the Homeowners Association, we'll hook them up. We can move it to his backyard.
That's right.
I remember this conversation as well, and I remember a little more than Buddy did, maybe because I'm a little more involved in it. But originally there was going to be a 5-acre park on the other side of the tree line, so we would end up with 10 acres when the other side got developed. So that's why it got pushed to that end. And nobody really paid very much attention to the uselessness from a park perspective of that property, with those really huge trees and the liability and the expense that they represent, and the large amount of slope. I mean, it would be really only useful for a walking path, which is probably what we're going to put in it. So this is way more usable property. It's also considerably farther from the freeway. You know, you see where the freeway is at the bottom, so there's quite a bit more space there. And the elevated ramp down onto the freeway would block a lot of the noise, so the park will be a lot quieter there than it would be over on the other side. So, and of course, it's obviously a lot flatter, which, you know, is what works for us, because pretty much all the things we do, we want to do it on flat ground. So, to me, it's a dramatic improvement, and I'm glad that you're on this project, because I've seen you go through this before, and you do what works for the community. You're one of the people that live here and know you're going to live with what you do, and you do a good job as a result of it. So this is a big improvement, and it's going to create a lot more recreational opportunity for that whole community. And the park we have there now is already pretty busy, and that area is not built out yet. It's going to get busier, and having a flat space that we can really do things with the whole space, as opposed to having some of it be drainage and on more of a slope like Mel Vincent Park is going to be a real benefit. So I'm really supportive of this, especially after all of you done all the detail work, working out all the problems. But I think this is a really good proposal, and I'm happy to see it happen.
Thank you. And if I could say one other thing, obviously we'd want to, as Mary relays it back to the city, that your support for that change will obviously be helpful. And then beyond that, we'd be more than happy to work with an ad hoc group or however you handle that. Should we get past this next gate with the city council next Wednesday, to work with you to figure out how to program it. I know that's down the road, but we do intend to move forward with this project pretty quickly if we can get through here, as in have approvals of it next year so that they can get development allotments, at the end of next year. So okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dennis. Any more conversation? Anybody else want to say anything?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to support that the Pleasant Valley Rec and Park will support the proposed new location for that Rancho Springville Development Park site. Is that the proper name?
Yes.
Okay. And to work forward with issues down the road as we go. Thank you.
Have a second? Karen, please call the roll.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you very much. Item 9B, consideration approval of an RFP for senior and community recreation facility design and architectural services.
That'd be me.
That'd be Mary.
All right, so the action before you tonight is recommended the board approve the request for the RFP for the senior community recreation facility design, architectural services to assist in the visioning and preparation of design concept and cost estimation. So summary, little bit, Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District in conjunction with the city is issuing the request for proposals. So what we're doing at this point in time is actually we finished with the needs assessment, and so the next step is actually looking at the RFP and the design work, and so this is kind of the next first step of phase 2, and this is in the efforts identified to further outline the mechanisms to which the facility will meet our needs, the community's needs. So if you remember a little bit of background, 2017, the district with the city requested Greenplay to conduct a needs assessment for the senior and community needs recreation facilities, which allowed this district to determine what current needs we had regarding senior center as well as recreation facilities. As part of this study, there was an extensive fact-finding, and so we did community outreach. We looked at program needs, facility needs. They developed 3 tiers and conceptual bubble diagrams. So what we're now doing is coming back and saying we're going to take the conceptual diagrams and now make them a little bit more defined. So the district board as well as city council confirmed that Plan 2, which was the approximate of 31,000 square feet, is the preferred plan. So Plan 2 consisted of the following elements. So activity space, game room, activity room for recreational programming, convert to event space, multi-purpose fitness, and a multi-sport gymnasium. So this was the bubble diagram that we came up with. Once again, it's not, this next phase is not to go back out and say what are all the needs. We've already done that. What this is to say is how do we redefine or refine this plan a little bit better. So as you can tell, the study identified the following program areas: active, recreation, passive, lifelong learning, cultural, health and wellness activities. So the purpose of this phase, or the design and architectural services, is to further refine the cost of the proposed plan. If you remember when we came back, when they looked at the bubble diagram, it was just a bubble diagram. So what this phase will do is actually kind of come back, look at it, refine the cost. We'll look at public input, create specific plan design concepts, alternatives, conduct parking analysis, and calculate the cost of what this really will cost. So the goals of the project are modernize the design of the building. So we have something that it looks a little bit more modern, how it integrates currently with the current campus that we have, provide space to gather, connect, learn, serve as a social center for a broader senior community. So those are all the things that we're looking for as part of this project. Other things is to offer well-designed meeting spaces, how specialized classrooms, as well as support an active mental, physical lifestyle for our community. The following are going to be key steps to serve as this scope. So what they're going to need to do is a site review and research, topographical and boundary land survey, discussion with both district and city staff, community meetings, workshop with liaison committee, coordination with city staff regarding planning and permitting to include that. The other thing is one of the key concepts is preparation of 4 concept plans. So each concept plan needs to include preliminary site plans, parking, renderings, cost estimation, which will then result in a final schematic design. So the end of this would be is we'd have a schematic that people would look at and say, this is where we're going next. Then we'd go into kind of the construction phase. So the continued scope of this would be to work with elected city officials, the district board, to select the preferred plan and then select a design and final schematics. So what will happen is once all of this is done, is there would be 4 designs, it would come back, board would have final decision on what that would look like, which one of those plans, and then it would go to final schematics. So the timeline for this would be the request for proposal would be today. We'd open it tomorrow. The deadline for proposals would be January 15th. The consultants would be selected somewhere in between. We'd look at the interviews January 28th through February 15th. Those interviews would be done by the liaison committee. The interviews would then be conducted the month of February. Once again, would be through the liaison committee. Approval of an award of the project would be the 1st of March. And the completion of the preliminary assessment would be July, and the presentation of the final would be sometime in September. These dates are just general right now, but it's just looking at the timeline to get some of this done, making sure we have community input and all of those different things that we'll need to do. So there is no fiscal impact associated with this action. Upon the selection of the consultant, the district will be obligated to appropriate 120% of half of the contract. The reason you're not seeing the cooperative agreement right now is because I can't come before you and say this is what this agreement's going to cost. So what will happen is we will come back when we select the architect. We'll come back with a cooperative agreement with the city. The city, once again, will approve the cooperative agreement. We will approve the RFP like we did in the past, and then we'd have the cooperative agreement and the RFP that would come before the board in the February-March meeting, depending on when we get all the interviews done. So it is recommended that the board approve the request for proposals for the senior community recreation facility design and architectural services to assist in the visioning and the preparation of design, concepts, and cost estimation. And once again, this RFP went before the liaison committee, and they went through, and this was vetted through the city as well as the liaison committee. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Or if Director Dixon or Director Magner have any comments, being they're part of the liaison committee.
You guys want to comment?
I don't really have any comments. I think Mary covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I have a question on wording in our handout on page 69 of 135. There's the letter F, gymnasium. If I read that sentence, the ability to accommodate 2 basketball courts, volleyball, blah, blah, blah. And you guys help me out. Now, to me, you can interpret that as is going to have 2 basketball courts and a volleyball and pickleball and badminton in terms of the wording on that. Now, am I mistaken? Yeah, to me, the space was basically 2 full-size basketball courts with options you can alternate with volleyball, pickleball, and other uses. But I think the wording in that sentence, to me, could be interpreted as it's going to have 2 basketball plus a bunch of other stuff. Am I mistaken on that?
No, I think the intent, and we can clean up the language on that, the intent is 2 basketball court sizes with the abilities for some of those other
I understand the intent. I'm just saying that wording makes me nervous.
We can clean it
And
up.
you guys need to clean that up before, just to make sure that everybody's on the same wavelength when it goes out.
Sure.
Okay, that's my first question. And then on these, you mentioned there's going to be 4 proposals coming back.
Correct.
And I guess, obviously they're going to have different architecture in terms of styles and different things. Is that also going to include 4 different cost levels within that? Do you know, or you have a handle on that? I'm just trying to, you see what I'm saying?
Yep, I think I do. So let me give this a step.
You can obviously go marble walls and everything, or versus tin foil or something, I'm just saying.
So I think as we go through this, those will be the things that we kind of will have to, as we go through the design phase and we get the community input, get staff, get directors, get city council, we get all of that, then what would happen is we start having those conversations of what some of that would look like. So obviously, if you're going to go top of the line with everything, there's going to be a cost to it, opposed to, do we want the bottom of the line or mid-level? So those will kind of be ironed out once we start having conversations of what some of this stuff will look like.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that when we come back at the end of this process, that we don't end up with 4, whatever they are, 4 the very highest cost or 4 the very bottom cost or whatever.
No.
I mean, there'd be some variation in there and options that we can pick and choose or combinations.
So I think what the idea is to having 4 different, so we'd be able, 4 different concepts, and for them then to take those concepts and then start to narrow those down to figure out what true costs are at. So one of the things that the committee or liaison committee could decide is we want the mid-level, and that's the lowest we're going to go on any of them, or we could say we want the highest. So those are things that we can kind of go back and forth with, but we can make sure that we specify those.
Okay. And then my last question has to do with the gym again. And my kids never played basketball here. So, I mean, we don't, I'm assuming on that diagram that we had up for the gym, the original, that was just a footprint, sketch, bubble map. I don't think we need bleachers in there, but do we have enough space in there to have some sit-down chairs, or do we need bleachers or not? Well, that's my question.
Fold-up ones, like they have in the high school.
So I think
is the intent to have that in there?
Well, I think
because that's not shown on the diagram. That's all I'm saying.
this isn't going to. This is the bubble diagram.
Yeah, I
so
understand.
all of those discussions will be part of the community input process, as well as working with board input and all of that. So this is just kind of so what this will kind of represent, and as we're going out to RFP, is we're giving them kind of this is about a 31,000 square foot. So what we don't want them to come back with and say, oh, we're going to design a 60,000 square foot, because that's not what we're looking for. This is kind of the overarching to give them some guidance on what we're looking for as part
I
of
just want to make sure we don't end up with 1 foot around those courts like we have at Freedom Gym. And, that's what I'm talking about.
You don't
So,
want
okay.
dasher lines that you
So
can't.
that's all. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm done. Thank you.
I just want to make sure I understand this. This is going out, 4 selections, and what are they going to come back with? What's it going to look like?
So this RFP will come back with, for us to pick an architect that that we want to use, that then will design this facility.
Okay, and how are, so we're looking to pick the person, the company that's going to do what?
That's actually going to design what this facility would look like.
But we're going to tell them, of course, what we want.
Correct.
Because I'm already thinking, and as far as the gym goes, is that ideally what you would have is 2 courts next to each other, and then a method to play youth basketball across those 2 courts, but that would necessitate having fold-down goals that come down from the middle of the facility. Well, if we don't give them that kind of detail, how are they gonna know exactly what we want?
So part of this selection process right now is to select an architectural firm. Once we select that firm, then what they will be doing is getting input on all those specifics. So
All
what
right.
we're trying to do right now is just select the firm that then will come back, which is why it's key that they'll have community input. We'll need to have input from board members, from council members, from staff, and all of those things. So right now, same thing is, I would look at that and say, not only do we need that, but we need storage over there. Because if you don't have, like, you can put all the basketball courts and everything, and if you don't have storage, well, then all of a sudden, if you're pulling out bleachers, or if you need basketballs or whatever, then we don't have that. So this is just to pick the architect. The next phase then will be to work with the architect, whoever we pick, to go through the design.
So this is a kind of a beauty contest for the architects, and the one we're the most comfortable with is the one we're going to pick.
Correct.
Okay, I got it now.
Okay.
Yeah, and an architect that's familiar with these kind of projects is going to know all that stuff. He's going to know that we want multi-use, and here's how you overlay the pickleball and the other courts, and how you stripe it, and what surface you need, and they'll understand that, you know, having 3 rows of bleachers could make one level cost, and having 10 rows of bleachers could double the cost of the gym because it's so much wider and requires them. You know, they understand what those trade-offs are and have already been through this process before and know how to do it. So they're basically going to tell us what's economically viable and what isn't, and tell us of things that we haven't thought of, and, you know, like Mary mentioned with the space and all that sort of stuff. So picking an architect that does these sort of things and do it well is really critical. And I think the city's experience with the library and how cool the library came out and all the things it does is an example of how, you know, important that process is to get people on your team that really understand it, because none of us do this for a living and you know, aren't really capable of doing that. They will. So, and all of these decisions along the way will be made with our liaison committee and theirs, and the full groups all being involved in the process all along, because we're talking about a lot of money. We're talking about a facility that's going to be serving this company, this community for many, 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 many years, and provide the foundation of recreation for Camarillo, you know, for as long as our grandkids are around. So, you know, it's a really important set of decisions, and I know it's frustrating to people that it isn't happening faster, but it's much better to get it right than it is to get it fast, because it's a long-term process. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for proposals for the Senior Community Recreation Facility Design and Architectural Services to assist in the visioning and preparation of design concepts and cost estimations.
I'll second.
You got that, Karen?
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye. 9C, consideration and approval of professional services agreement with Leach Mounts Architects for the design and construction plans for the Valley Lindo restroom. Bob Sarasulo.
Good evening,
You're up.
Chairman Malloy, members of the board. Congratulations on another fine year, and glad to see you back next year. Tonight I'm coming to you to get your recommendation. So, excuse me, I got tongue-tied right now. Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District Board issued a request for proposals for experienced architect firms to pair a design and redo the bathrooms for Valley Lindo Park. Valley Lindo Park was first developed in 1978 as a 10-acre park. This park sits beside Cape School, formerly Valley Lindo School, and they have about 3.5 acres of open space. So together with our park and Cape, there's about 5.5 acres of open space that gets used quite a bit. This park also has a walking path, tennis courts, playground equipment for 2 to 5 and 5 to 12. Has a pavilions, has an amphitheater, youth practices or passive recreational areas also get used a lot out there. That's that open space, and the restrooms. So in 2013, we developed a 5-year strategic plan, capital improvement plan, and it included all the parks and facilities and that needed modification, replacements, and improvement. This project was identified as one of those projects. So, in July 5th, 2018, I have a hard time talking tonight, the board approved budget for Fund 30, which is the Quimby fees. Valley Lindo restroom and pavilion were identified as the project to be funded for $425,000. And again, here's some pictures of the building. You can see out there, the little cage wall in there. There's 4 individual stalls. This is a little storage room. Right there's just outside drinking fountain, hand dryer. You got to come outside to wash your hands out that way. That was a pavilion. Again, there's another look at it. So, 4 proposals were received and evaluated from the RFP. We went from firm history and staffing, breakdown of work to be performed, description and proposed schedule of an approach, and history of similar projects completed in the last 2 years. Here's an analyst on description of how we broke it down. Firm, it's kind of hard to read, but up on top, we have a minus, asterisk, and then plus.
So just to interject, board members, you should have a copy as part of your packet. So I think Karen put that up there, just a little bit easier for you to see as you're looking at that.
Thank you. So anyways, we kind of broke it down on how to pick the firm. It's firm history and staff. You can see they all were formed, 1961, 1970, and 62 and 99. That was part of our bid specs. And then they said where they're from. You can see one is in Long Beach, one is out of San Luis, and the other 2 in the county. A couple of positives. They did 200-plus projects for public projects. One of the negatives, they didn't list their subcontractors weren't listed. And as subcontractors, well, they have to hire electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, structural, where the other 2, Leach Mount and Ravit Albrecht, they have that in-house, or they listed their subs. So you can see here we put didn't meet specs. Number 2, breakdown of the work to be performed. The breakdown of each task and phase, they all did that. Construction phase, not well defined by the first bidder. The other 2 really didn't put it in there. And then the Ravit, excuse me if I'm saying it wrong, breakdown included specific personnel and estimated hours. And again, they all met what we were asking for. Description of proposed schedule. So a negative for the first one, their timeline wasn't there, wasn't well defined. The other ones all did good. The third one, Leach Mount, this one, they broke it down to personnel and estimated hours. Ravit did a Gantt chart with a timeline of the project. It was a very nice portfolio they put in. So the first one didn't meet him. The rest of them met the specs. Some of the parks, some of the stuff they've done throughout the L.A., Santa Barbara, Ventura counties, and even further. So we didn't get nothing from Laubacher on what they've done. They said they've done things, but we couldn't find anything. So we weren't too sure about them. These guys, they did things for City of Ventura, Stockton, Monterey, and then the third one is done past Robles, a lot of stuff up that way. So they did the zoo in Atascadero. And again, we had 3 that met it, 1 didn't. Met it, and 1 didn't. And here's the pricing. that's how we came to choose Leech Mount, was because they fit most of the criteria we were looking for. We know it's a big difference in pricing, but they're in the county. If I have more issues, we can go straight there and talk to them. So, again, this comparison resulted in staff recommending Leech Mountain Architects. Their proposals satisfied all the criteria set out in the RFP. They've done similar projects, expertise of key professional staff on board, explanation of deliveries. Their overall proposal was excellent. Description of proposed schedule and approach was very good. As part of the RFP process, the district requested the architect firm to provide 2 options for design: retrofit the current building and demolish and install a prefab building and shade structure. 3 of the firms didn't quote on the prefab because we'd have to cut down trees, the turf damage to get in, we'd have to come back from Co Street and bring around, and the use of the crane. Those are some large trees around that restroom, a lot of sequoias and pine trees that are probably 70 feet, 80 feet tall. So we wouldn't be able to get a crane in there unless they came off Co, and that'd do some damage. And this is the scheduled deliveries. This is what they say they'll be doing: a pre-design and programming, schematic design and concept, discretionary permit processing, construction documents, construction contract procurement, and limited construction contract administration, to where they'll give us X amount of hours to work with. And a fiscal impact. The district allocated $425,000 from Fund 30. These were designated in the 2018-19 budget, and the cost of the plans for this project would be $59,850. So it's recommended the board of directors approve and authorize the general manager to enter a professional service agreement between the district and Leech Mounts Architects for the design and construction plans for the Valley Lindo restroom for $59,850.
Any questions for Bob? Mike?
Bob, help me out. When we were doing this, there's some existing storage. Is there supposed to be an existing storage attached to this proposal anywhere, or not really?
No.
We don't need that storage.
We have 2 storage rooms there now. We will be taking one of them away and make that. They'll take the one storage room where we have a clock and some of our plumbing fixtures, and that'll become like the men's or ladies' restroom. And then they'll blow out the wall. Here's what I showed you.
Well, the point is you're doing something to make up for that storage.
Right. Well, so this room here, there's a wall, but right there goes straight across. So this will be an existing room. That'll stay storage. And then beside that room is another room which will convert into a new restroom. And then you can see that up there. That'll become, this whole area will become a restroom. And then they'll take this wall and blow it out to this corner here. And then make them the same size and so you have to have ADA access and everything in there. So, but we still end up with storage.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a little bit confused here. You say that there are 3 firms that replied concerns regarding the prefab building. Was Leech Mounts the one that did quote it, or?
The only one that quoted was BOA.
BOA. Okay. Okay. So based on this, it sounds like the prefab idea is kind of gone. Is that
yes?
Is that correct? So
yes.
Okay. All right. So that did not factor into your decision as to which.
No, not after speaking with them. Okay. And looking at the project, we looked at it and said, yeah, we can't do this.
Okay. And the BOA architecture, what was the issue with them as to why you didn't?
They didn't have any like engineers on staff. They didn't have an electrical engineer, mechanical, or structural, and they didn't list them at all for us. So we don't want to get into something where it's going to start costing us. Well, now we have to pay for this guy. Now we have to pay for this guy, and that could go higher than our bid.
So you're concerned that their bid was actually not complete, that there might be add-on costs?
So just to add to that quickly, so BOA did not list any of the subcontractors, so I couldn't tell you what the experience of the electrical engineers or anything. When you look at leach mounts, full package, they're going with Ratton Turpin, which has been in existence since 1970, who've done major projects for governmental agencies. So when we're looking at that full thing, you're also looking at who their subcontractors are, so we don't end up with somebody that you don't know of. With BOA as well, their breakdown was not significant. You couldn't tell kind of what the construction phase, which is going to be a large phase of this. So construction documents and all of those things, it wasn't well spelled out.
Okay, that's all I had.
I just have one question. Where do you anticipate the workers and whatever equipment is needed coming in on this site?
Depends what there is to bring in, but they'll either park on the street or we allow them up on the concrete, but more than likely they'll park on the street.
All right.
That's all. Elaine?
Did you have a good feeling for what this quote might be? Did you think that these are within the ballpark, or?
Yes, because we already went out and I had one quote, and I talked to Mary about it, and it's more than we can approve, more than Mary can approve. So that's when we decided to go the RFP process, and I talked to another one.
And it was similar?
They were right there.
Okay.
So, and the BOA is just, I mean, it's a red flag for me.
Right. And have you seen any of the structures that they have done the?
I went to Ventura and looked at one of them.
Okay.
So and that was by Leach Mount. So.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
Yeah, leach mount's been around a really long time. And this BOA architecture, you're describing some of the things that we dealt with at Village at the Park with the architect.
Yeah.
Don't want to live that again.
Yeah.
And certainly they don't have any local vendors because they've never done anything here. So
Right.
no thanks.
I like the idea of the local.
It's just a bad place to go cheap. We learned that the hard way.
Yep.
And we're not doing that again. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the general manager to enter into a professional services agreement between the district and Leach Mounts Architects for the design and construction plans for Valley Lindo Park restrooms for $59,850.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Item 9D, consideration, selection, and vote for election of special district regular member and alternate member to Ventura LAFCO.
Good evening, Chairman Malloy and members of the board. So tonight we are going to discuss LAFCO and the election that we have before us. So LAFCO, the state provides LAFCO to be formed, and as you know, we have one here in Ventura County. And right now, we are getting ready for the next 4-year term, and there are 2 separate ones that we're looking at tonight. Our regular LAFCO candidates, there's 2 that are up front, one from Ojai, Russ Baggerly, and Elaine Freeman from Rancho Simi. And you get 1 vote, so you can vote for one of these 2. And then we have the alternate LAFCO candidates. There are 3 candidates, and the term is the exact same for 4 years. We have John Curtis from Ojai Valley Sanitary District. We have Neil Dixon from Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District. And we have Andy Waters from Clagus Municipal Water District. And again, you have 1 vote for this. So there's no fiscal impact with this. So tonight before you, it is recommended that the board select and vote to the Ventura Local Agency Formation Commission 1 special district regular member and 1 alternative member.
Are we doing one motion?
Yeah, let's just do them one at a time.
One at a time,
Let's just do them
okay.
one at a time. So let's have a conversation about Russ Baggerly and Elaine Freeman. And of course, Mike is president of Ventura County Special Districts, and Elaine is CSDA board member. You guys are most familiar with the work of both of these people, so.
Yeah, I think Elaine Freeman does an outstanding job. She's really on top of stuff. And not only does she understand and attend the meetings, but this is part of her business. I mean, this is her business, is land development, land use type of thing. So she has her whole career in this in terms of knowing.
She's also really well connected at Sacramento as a result of doing the things that she does with Elaine.
So I would recommend Elaine Freeman.
If he'll make that motion, I'll second it, but we'll see what everybody else wants to do.
That's good enough for me. I don't know either one of them, so.
Well, Elaine's been on, she was the alternate for years, and now she is the board member, and I'm with Mike. That's her business. She's very in touch with this stuff. She works with it daily, and
she's not afraid to stand up and say things.
Right.
She's not afraid, even if she's the only one in the room. She'll stand up and say
She's
stuff.
also regularly present at the VCSDA meeting, so it's easy to get access to her.
And reports.
If you have any questions or concerns. Okay. So did I hear you nominate?
I will nominate Elaine Freeman for the regular LAFCO candidate 4-year term.
And I'll second it.
I'll second it. Okay. Let's approve that. Karen, please call the roll.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Chairman Lilly?
Aye. And Elaine Freeman is our regular LAFCO representative. Alternate LAFCO, Jack Curtis, Neil Dixon, Andy Waters. We have a candidate amongst us. Do you care to give a campaign speech?
I wasn't intending to give a campaign speech, but
it's the season.
Yeah, but I will tell you that I think that this would be a very, personally, I think this would be a very interesting group to be involved with. I can't claim that I have tremendous experience in this area, but I do think I'm a quick learner, and I'm also a reasonable person that can listen to competing arguments and sort it out and make a good decision. I'm also somebody that is willing to go in with an idea of where I think things should go and listen to competing arguments and change my mind if I think I can be convinced otherwise. And I think those are good traits for someone in this kind of position. So I would appreciate your support.
Okay. Any other comments, Elaine?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Okay.
I definitely support our peer, and I'll tell you why. The alternate person Elaine was the alternate. She learned a lot, even though land use was her business. But she was the alternate for years, and I think that's just a learning position, and I think you would be a good fit for that just because you're coming in, you're open, and being the alternate when one of the other ones are not there, you're put in there and you get to hear from the experience of all of the other people. So I fully support him.
Yeah, I do too. So
okay.
Have my vote all the way.
You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to submit Neil Dixon as our candidate for the alternate LAFCO for the 4-year term.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Chairman Lilly?
Aye. 9E, consideration and the motion carries 5-0. Consideration and adoption of resolution number 608, an application for the Saucony Run for Good Foundation grant for marketing and special event programming for the Root Beer Run and Ice Cream Invite in July 2019. And do not ask me to explain what I just said.
I'll do that for you. Good
Thank you,
evening,
Eric.
Chairman Malloy, members of the board, general manager, staff, Cameron, and viewers at home. Eric Story, your recreation services manager. Tonight we're going to go ahead and do exactly that. Consideration and adoption of resolution number 608, an application for the Saucony Run for Good Foundation grant for marketing and special event programming for an event that we do. It's called the Root Beer Run Ice Cream Invite, RBR ICI. All right, a little bit of background. The National Park and Rec Association, NRPA, every year they celebrate July as National Park and Rec Month. So all month long, there's programming, there's activities, whatnot. Last year, we actually participated as well. We put on 31 free events all month long. We actually had 32 events in 31 days. Staff did an amazing job across the board putting these events on. Everything from yoga in the park, we put on a cornhole tournament, We had free rec swim, we had a bingo bash, we did free guided hikes, as well as the root beer run and ice cream invite, which was an event that we did at PV Fields during the closures. We used the walking trail, the path, the DG, everything like that. We had 120 runners, and overall, in terms of this specific event, to include marketing of the entire month, so in staffing, operational, and marketing, we spent $1,230, as well as we had the Camarillo Cosmos Youth Track Club as a signature sponsor. And this picture here is right at the starting line, and you can see we had a majority of kids were here at this event. They, the parent brought mom, dad brought daughter, kid. We had a couple grandparents as well. Saucony is a manufacturer of athletic clothing as well as apparel. Their foundation, their philanthropic arm, the Run for Good Foundation, their aim is to keep kids healthy and active, and since 2006 have donated over $1 million to that purpose. Their mission is to improve children's lives by helping to reduce and, more importantly, prevent obesity. As part of this grant recipients will be awarded based on the following criteria: running participation for health and wellness in children, services youth populations not traditionally served by running, as well as demonstrates support for a program that exemplifies the foundation's mission. And I understand it's a root beer run and ice cream invite. The caveats of that, asterisk marks, if you will, is we bought 4 or 5 tubs of ice cream as well as root beer. I think we went through maybe 1, maybe 2, the entire event. The rest got put away for later use. So the analysis on this is that we're going to continue programming this event. As part of that, we're trying to increase our attendance by 20%, so 150 runners this year. We're going to do an educational outreach component as well as continued partnership development, whether it be through current community service groups or other type of running partners throughout the community. Currently, there is no grant match to this, so there's no financial fiscal impact. Our submission, though, is for $5,000 to help increase and meet those goals of the grant, as well as our internal goals of increased attendance, as well as outreach and partnership development.
Awesome. Any questions?
Awesome. No.
I second awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering where the rest of the root beer and ice cream went.
It got distributed to some staff as well as volunteers.
Oh, okay. I'm ready to go.
Okay. Bob?
I don't have any.
No, it's pretty easy sale to expand a program and get a grant to pay for it. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 608, an application for the whatever Run for Good Foundation grant funding for marketing and special event programming for the Root Beer Run and Ice Cream Invite event in July 2019.
And I'll second it. Go ahead and call the roll.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Outstanding. Okay. Our last agenda item tonight, board reorganization. We need to elect new officers for the 2019 calendar year. Just a little information here. A nomination requires a second to be valid. A nominated director may second their own nomination and may vote for themselves. Clerk of the board will document the nominations and tallying the votes by calling roll. Newly elected officers will sit in their seat beginning at the January board meeting, but they're actually officers when the meeting concludes. So I now open the floor for the purpose of nominations for the position of board chairman.
I would like to nominate Director Kelly.
I'll second.
Are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? Hearing none, I now close the nominations for the position of board chairman. Clerk of the board, call the roll for the first nomination.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Congratulations to Chairman Kelly for the calendar year 2019. I now open the floor for the purpose of nominations for the position of Board Vice Chair.
I would like to nominate Elaine Magner for that position.
I'll second.
Are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? Hearing none, I will now close the nominations for the position of Board Vice Chairman. Clerk of the Board, call the roll for the first nomination.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Congratulations, Vice Chairman Magner. I now open the floor for the purpose of nominations for the position of Board Secretary.
I nominate Director Dixon.
I'll second.
Are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? Hearing none, I now close the nominations for the position of Board Secretary. Clerk of the Board, call the roll for the first nomination.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Congratulations, Secretary Dixon. Okay, this moves us on to the informational items. First up is me, for my final time. Normally, November is a pretty slow month, but we were a little busier than usual, primarily because of the fires. We had an emergency meeting on November 16th to declare a state of emergency. On the 19th, I gave a presentation to the Optimist Club regarding the proposed redevelopment of Camarillo Springs Golf Course from a public recreation facility to 200 new homes in an existing floodplain. On May 20th, we had a Finance Committee meeting and did all the usual review analysis of our numbers, as well as got an introduction to cost control as a factor in setting user rates for the facilities. We had a VCSDA meeting on Tuesday, December 4th, which I'm sure Director Mishler will talk about and Director Magner will talk about. And the last thing I want to mention is I hope you all saw Cameron's article in the Acorn last week regarding the owner of the Sterling Hills Golf Course has published a plan on his website proposing 134 units on 20 acres of the golf course property at Sterling Hills. And the owner claims that this is to be in the interest of making the course more sustainable. The plan shown eliminates the driving range, which is a significant source of revenue for people warming up prior to play, practicing, and for giving lessons to those learning to play. Reducing those revenue sources is really not compatible with making the course more sustainable. So we have now our second public golf course in play by ownership to turn it into, at least partially into development. So I want to make sure that's on everybody's radar. I'd also like to mention, if I can find my sheet, I'd like to thank my fellow board members and Mary and the staff for my support, for their support for me, for my third term as chairman. I really appreciate the year chance to work with our management team more closely to prepare the board's business to be dealt with each month. We had a really difficult start the year with the Thomas fire, like as I was elected, and resulted in cancellation of the parade. But we've also have a lot of successes in the past year, including the largest investment in capital projects that the district has done in 1 year since I've been here 12 years ago. It was a very, very productive year. And earlier this year, I had the privilege of chairing the first joint meeting between the City Council and our board to review the needs assessment study. And I'm really appreciative to the council for supporting this really important project and for being there with us and working with us to make it happen. It's been fun being on the front end of that. And tonight we took, amongst all these things we did, we took a really important step in getting ready to design the improvements to make this thing actually happen. I mean, we've been talking about this for so long, and to actually being at the place we're going to start drawing what the thing is going to look like and be is pretty exciting. So I'm handing it off to you, to Director Kelly, and I wish you the best in the year ahead. That's all I have. Next item is Ventura County Special District Association and CSDA. You want to start with you, Elaine?
Yeah, I'm going to go with CSDA first, and then I'll finish with Ventura County, and Mike can finish it. I'm kind of like, November's usually a dead time, but I think I was in Sacramento 3 weeks, during 3 weeks at some point. Was crazy up there. We've got a lot of things happening. I go up on Monday for my first executive board meeting. And of course, the first thing on the agenda for it is the appraisal of the CEO of CSDA. So, and you all know my feelings about doing performance appraisals. So, even with my HR background, I shared with you. I had Mary share with you, and I just quickly want to go over this. 2017, 2018 was extremely busy with legislative statistics or legislative activity. And just to briefly let you know, there was 5,617 bills presented. We tracked 1,285 of them, and we directly lobbied for 238 of them. We supported 125. We actually got one. The CSDA staff actually wrote one, got a sponsor for it, and it went all the way through and passed. Out of the 125, 80 of them were passed into law. 6 were amended to remove support, and 39 failed to be passed. We opposed 105 bills. 58 of them failed to pass, so we were successful in over 50%. 27 of them were amended to remove opposition, so we got them amended to go the way we wanted, but yet 20 of them were signed into law. So the advocacy group is off-site this week working on the bills that we're going to be tracking, so I think you'll find it interesting with the information I sent you. So CSDA does a lot of work, and it's amazing what happens in Sacramento, and when you see it in action, it's even more amazing. So I will keep you posted on CSDA as things come up, keeping in mind that it's the 50th anniversary of CSDA in 2019, and the 50th celebration will be in Anaheim in September, so I'll give you more information on that because I hope that we can all attend it since it's close by. VCSDA, we met on Tuesday night, and we had a very interesting speaker talking about drought, and the next day the clouds open up and boom, but that, as we know, it's not what takes care of it. So Ian Pritchard from Camarillo Water District spoke on making water conservation a California way of life. So, and dinner was good, and we were at the Camarillo Healthcare District, and where Kara is such a pleasant host. And Mike, you're on.
Oh, I just want to say that, yeah, we had a good talk. It was interesting to see that it's kind of makes me nervous to see how the state government comes up with how they're going to implement something on some minor detail. I mean, they put all this little stuff together like it's supposed to work everywhere, and it's obviously going to be, it's going to be an exciting mess when they get to it. But anyway, well, it's about the water budget and how much water you're supposed to have and allocate it. And the bottom line for people who weren't there is this is going to be a major headache for a water district, but for us as an end user, it's going to be a minor issue. But in a homeowner, you're not going to be. People aren't going to be. The water police are not going to come knocking on your door if you have a house or something. But the water districts are going to get a lot of issues to go through this. So anyway, it's a good thing we're not a water district.
Well, it's a minor thing for us in terms of the rules, but what they're really after is compliance by the districts, And as one of the district's largest customers, it is definitely going to result.
It's going to be impacting us.
Right. So, it's going to become, the significance of water now is really the way that rates have gone up so fast, but it's going to be, the scarcity and how we allocate it and where we use it is also going to become a much bigger challenge. But, we'll see. You want to jump to Consolidated Oversight Board? You guys?
Yes, there hasn't been any recent meetings. The next one will be in January. The only thing I'll mention about that is there's one representative who represents all the cities of Ventura County on that, and that was Jan McDonald, and of course she lost the re-election committee. So right now the cities have no representative for them on this particular oversight board. So all the cities are going to have to get together and elect a new member to serve on it at some point.
Santa Monica Mountains, did you meet?
There was no meeting in the past here month. The next meeting will be this coming Monday.
Okay, Standing Committees Finance, I mentioned that in my director's comments. Liaison?
Yeah, liaison, really, we discussed the last issue of liaison with the architectural selection was last.
Yeah, right. And personnel? No personnel meeting? Policy?
We met, and we're making some headway, and we have some public members in there, which is good, and we're actually making some decent headway there.
Okay, Foundation.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for the board for being recognized as a volunteer group. We've got some great workers. I let Mary guide the ship, and I keep her in line, and the people you met out there are the people who do the work with Megan, and we couldn't do it without that great group of people. So, and we're always looking for additional board members. So if you're interested, please call Megan at the office. We'd love to have additional board members. We have, I even think, more things to do out at Cam Grove. So we'd love to have people join us. We did decide on a date for our annual, and Megan's going to help me here because I didn't write it down, August 24th will be, please put that on your calendars, will be our annual fundraiser at Cam Grove. So we know we have a lot of work to do out there, but what better chance than for people to come out and actually take a look and see what's going on. So to the rebirth of Cam Grove. So
excellent. Mary, General Manager report.
Okay, let's see if we can start with a few updates first. So Parks Department, the community center, the outdoor women's restroom has now been upgraded and remodeled. So we'll do the men's probably starting after the first of the year because it takes about 4 to 8 weeks to make sure that that is ready to go. Charter Oaks, we've completed that project. There were approximately 6 trees, actually 7. We had one that was decaying, so 7 trees have been removed. We'll be planting probably another 10 this spring. So that's in progress. Springville Dog Park, could you pull that up, please? Springville Dog Park is moving again. So right now, what you'll see is a temporary dog park area at Freedom Park. So when we close Springville, there's signage up. We will be closing that on Monday, the 10th of December. And so there will be a temporary site out here. The fencing is already up. There's already a bullpen that's out there. So that will be open from 10 a.m. to dusk to replace the Springville Dog Park while that is closed. So once again, this is a temporary site, which also helps. If you remember, one of the locations we were also going to have open was the dog park at Cam Grove. Unfortunately, that will not be able to happen, so at least we have this site, and then we also still have the off-leash area at Mission Oaks. So that is up and underway. So hopefully they were supposed to, we got the permitting process, so the hope was yesterday and today they'd start rebuilding the wall. So obviously with rain, they should be starting that tomorrow, hopefully by Monday or so, that should be done. So now we'll start backfilling the wall. We'll start with the irrigation. And then remember, we've got the wood fence that will go up, the renovations to the irrigation, install the walking path, and then the vegetation on the slopes. So this park will be open as long as that one is closed. The other thing that will be underway, just following back up on Nancy Bush, playground, as Brandon had mentioned earlier, one of the things that the board asked was to have shade. So there will be shade at that over the playground area, just not over the swings. The total price for that is $206, and that was within the specs of what the board had requested, which was about $15,000. We also took off all the designs on the pour and play. So by making that one color, which will actually be easier when we have to replace it, that helped cut the cost a little bit as well. So we were able to kind of exchange the shade structure for that.
Great.
So that will be underway. Coming back in January, and some of the upcoming ones will bring back the pavilion at Pitts Ranch. We'll also be bringing back some ideas for Nancy Bush. Just to give you a little bit of a heads up, is we are looking at putting the pavilion at Nancy Bush. Bob, Nick, and Anthony and I are out there today, and one of the challenges we've got a couple trees, so we may come back with some different shade structures than what you normally see, because if we put a normal shade structure, we'd have to cut back an oak tree. I don't think we want to cut back an oak or a pepper tree, so there'll be some other options that will come before you in January. A couple other updates. We were notified on November 30th, the Oxnard School District. The district received official notice from Oxnard School District regarding surplus property. So that is, the Oxnard School District officially approved that on November 7th. That means our board, or we have, as a public entity, we have 60 days to reply whether we want to purchase, lease, or exchange that property. So that will be coming back to the board in January as a closed session to have some discussion items regarding that information. So no.
You mentioned the location.
So the location, Oxnard School District has about 10 properties on surplus. That particular item, or that particular location, is 15 Stearman Street, which is out at Freedom Park. So just as a reference point, is they own the gym. They do not own the parking lot. The parking lot is owned by the county. So there's other things other discussion items that we'll have to address along with that. Absolutely. Yeah. So that will be Freedom. That will be Freedom Gym. So the last item before we go is just to thank the board, knowing the amount of time and support and work that it takes to be able to do this. I know this is a passion for all of you. And next to you on the ground, there is a bag. So it's kind of a token of appreciation to your right. To your right. There's a token of appreciation, which is, there you go. So you're more than welcome to open that when you can. We could not be successful and serve the community, and we know that what you all do is very important to the community. The other thing is, I'd like to take just a second to especially thank Mark as the board chair for his guidance, dedication, and commitment over the course of the past year. As the board chair does put in a little bit of extra time, knowing that they have to come in and meet, do board chair meetings, and I know that when sometimes we have questions and guidance, they help staff with that as well. So we'd like to thank the board chair, and he gets his own gavel to take home, but we had to make sure that it was glued, otherwise we were afraid that he'd use it. So with that, I'm going to give this to Chairman Moore.
I was hoping for a Mustang.
With a high-performance
Mary, stay there. Mary, stay there.
Oh, yes, the photo op.
You gotta get the gavel.
It's all paper.
I know there's a gift in here somewhere.
It's like Christmas.
Yeah, there we go.
Another gavel.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Okay. Mary, but thanks for the nice thank you. There is one thing I want to ask you about, though, and that's Arneal Ranch. I don't see it on the plan.
It's on, it will be coming back in January. So Arneal Ranch will be coming back with some options of what we're looking at, so.
Okay, super.
Okay.
All right, let's see. We've got oral communications, informal items from board members. I know, Elaine, you have something.
Yes, I do. First of all, I'd like to thank the staff. Camarillo Pony Baseball and USSSA was going to put on a tournament this weekend with for the Toys for Tots, and with the rain and everything, we were able to get one day in on Sunday, and 1,100 toys were donated just here in Camarillo. They had it across the area in Ventura County. So I'd like to thank Camarillo Pony Baseball and USSSA Director Jeremy Huffman for their great effort. And they're looking for someone a local group to step up and help with the distribution of the toys. So if I'll give Mary the contact information, and we'll see what we can do to help them get toys out to the needy. So, but 1,100 in just one day is really great. So.
Oh, yeah, that is terrific. Neil, you have anything?
A couple things. One, just like most people at this time of year, my mailbox is filling up with letters from a lot of organizations that are asking for donations, and they're all very worthy organizations and deserving of our support. But I'd like everybody to keep in mind that there's a very local organization, our own foundation, which is a charitable organization, and if anybody's out there looking through their list of places that they'd like to make year-end donations, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District's foundation, and I think you can probably find information for that on our website. Secondly, I just wanted to again congratulate Directors Kelly and Magner for their re-elections. It's at year-end here. It's really been a pleasure for me to be on this board, and I'm very glad they were both re-elected. I admire and enjoy working with everybody on this board. And I'd also like to congratulate the new city council members, Councilmember Malchoy and Santangelo, and Ms. Craven on her reelection, and to thank the outgoing city council members for their years of service. I especially enjoyed working with Jan McDonald on the liaison committee over the last year, and I think she's a very fine public servant, and congratulations to her on a fine career, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Bob?
Yes. This will be the third time that I have followed Mark in becoming the chair, and I just want to say that this year I've noticed that Mark is actually, in my eyes, and I'm sure many other people's eyes, has become the gold standard of what a chair should be. I have learned so much just sitting here next to him and just, I don't think I've ever met anybody that no matter what the issue is, he can always find something you didn't think of, and not some little small little thing. He'll think of something big that you just didn't consider. And you just have to get better yourself when you're sitting next to somebody like that. I think, in my opinion, I've been here for 12 years. This is the best performance by a chair I've ever seen. So I want to congratulate him for this year. It was just run like a machine. He rarely forgets anything, just like the issue he noticed just a second ago. I know I would never probably notice that. But it's a tough act to follow, let me tell you. And I know that. So let's hope that I've learned a few things from him in this past year and in the previous years. So thank you for what you dedicate to this board, Mark, and the rest of the members also. Nobody works harder than the people on this board. Nobody's more knowledgeable. Nobody goes through and takes an issue and whipsaws it back and forth like we do. When we get to the bottom of the issue, believe me, everything that you can imagine has been discussed, and when we have a vote, it's actually meaningful and is based on content and doing the right thing for the community. Of course, we don't always agree, but that's part of being on a board. Next, I would like to move on to this thing at Camarillo High School. Anybody that goes by Camarillo High School every day sees just the terrible condition that football field is in because of a tremendous amount of overuse. And I haven't run the numbers, but I know how much in property taxes I pay for the 2 houses I own, and I know everyone else is paying their fair share too. I just suspect that a lot of the money that comes out of Camarillo goes right back over to Oxnard. And I heard recently, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it came from a reasonable source, and that is that there was promised a turf field at Camarillo High School. But I understand now what's happening is Oxnard Union High School District wants to put tracks in all the other schools in Oxnard before they come back over here and put a field in. Now, I'm going to endeavor to validate that particular piece of hearsay, but I just think that that's just terrible. The field over there, now they're playing soccer. It's dangerous. It gets torn up during football because they've got so much usage on it. They play, of course, in the rain and in other bad weather. And then the soccer players, the boys and the girls, come out there, and already they're playing on a 50-yard wide field that 70 yards is required, at least. And I don't think we're getting our fair share. And so I thought that it was time that somebody that had at least a little bit of the ability would call them out on that. We deserve better. We're paying our fair share, and we ought to get something out of it, and I don't think we're getting it. Aside from that, at this time of the year, it's coming into Christmas, and yes, we've had some trying circumstances this year, but we keep moving right along and trying to provide the best service and that we can for the people out there who are kind enough to vote for us and keep us in office. And so with that, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, and hopefully next year's even better.
Thank you, Bob. Elaine, everything?
No, I'm going to piggyback on Bob. I was just wanted to say what a great job you do being chair. You always seem to have everything in order and keep us all in order, so I appreciate that and wish Director Kelly good luck for next year. And I know that the four of us will support you all the way, so you never have to worry about that. So, and happy holidays to everybody. And please, everybody, remember the parade in Santa's Village is on Saturday, so we'd like to see everybody out there. And you can see us all in our cars and waving at everybody because I think we're going to have sunshine. So,
Yes, that's what we programmed.
yes.
Mike?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Mark, for the year, of course, doing all this work. Thank you, and then also special congratulations to Buddy and Elaine for the election, of course. That was great. I'm happy. I'm looking forward to working with you guys again and moving forward. I'm also looking forward to meeting, and continuing to work with the city and the city council and moving forward. And I also want to thank the staff. It's like all board members, I get telephone calls from the public and emails and text messages and pictures and stuff, and from the public out in our various facilities. And the people using the Charter Oak Park were very impressed that you guys did a great job, Bob. Your people, your staff out there working, fixing there were some asphalt issues with the walkway falling apart and some potholes and stuff. And you guys, I went out there and double checked, and you guys did a super great job fixing all that up and everything. And I mean, probably within 5 minutes of you guys doing it, I already had public members telling me about it. So thank you very much. They all appreciate it too. Thank you.
Okay. Anything from staff? No? No? Well, my final act, we are adjourned.
Is there cake or something? You said?
Yeah.